I have a brand new update for you just in from Arkansas on the intense search for the Devil's Den State Park killer. I want you to get a good look at this picture. This is brand new, just put out by Arkansas State Police of who they say is the person of interest in the murders of a mom and dad who are out for a weekend hike with their daughters. Also today, police put out this new sketch of what they say the killer's face may look like. The hope is that these new images will help in the manhunt to bring this person to justice. Police are still looking for the person who killed that mom and dad who had just moved to Arkansas and were out for a weekend hike with their daughters ages 7 and 9. There's also a new clue put out by investigators that I will tell you that they hope can bring this manhunt to an end. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Tensions are high in Arkansas today as a popular state park is closed and the FBI has joined in as a manhunt is continuing for the suspect they say killed a mom and a dad. All right, let's get right to it. Here is the new image that was just put out this afternoon by Arkansas State Police. This is who they're calling a person of interest in the murders of Kristen and Clinton Brink. They were just out for a hike in Devil's Den State Park over the weekend in Northwest Arkansas with their two daughters, who are just 7 and 9 years old. Now, when you look at this image from Arkansas State Police, you can see that the person appears to be wearing a backpack, and you see little hints of blue in the design. This person of interest has long sleeves, a hat, long pants, which matches up with the description that was originally put out by state police. It's also important to note that state police say he was wearing sunglasses and he had fingerless gloves on. So think of like workout gloves that this person was wearing at the time of these murders, according to police. Police have been asking people who live in the area to review trail cameras if they have them, or if they were in the park on July 26th, that was Saturday, to review images that they took with their cameras on their phones or maybe a GoPro to see if they have any information or any images of this person of interest. Also new today is this image. Police put out this new sketch showing what the man's face may look like. You can see he has a little stubble on his face. Police described him as a white man with a medium build. There's also a key clue, a little detail that investigators put out as they released that sketch, which could be critical in this manhunt, and I will get to that in just a moment. It's important to remember what this manhunt is all about and what this person of interest, according to police, allegedly did. They took the lives of this couple, two parents, Kristen and Clinton Brink. The two of them, they were in their 40s and they had just moved to Arkansas from out of state. Previously, they lived in South Dakota and Montana. The Associated Press reports that Clinton Brink, the dad, was scheduled to start his new job on Monday as a milk delivery driver near Fayetteville, Arkansas. The mayor of their new town where they moved to said the water was turned on at their home just in the last couple of weeks, so they were brand new to this state. The pair, they were just out for a hike in Devil's Den State Park in Northwest Arkansas with their 7 and 9-year-old girls. Now that park, it is a couple hours away from Tulsa, Oklahoma, about a half hour south of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Police say this suspect attacked the couple inside the park around 2:30 in the afternoon on Saturday, and the two girls, those daughters, just 7 and 9 years old, were reportedly able to get away from the killer and make it to a visitor's station where they were able to alert the authorities, according to local media in Arkansas who have been covering this story. Now, the area of the park where the Brinks were killed, according to police, it had thick brush, it had rugged terrain, and it also was out of cell phone range, which is why they had to make it to that visitor center to be able to call 911. Here's the moment that police, when they arrived at the park, found the bodies of the Brinks. This is per KNWA-TV.
I think I see you right there. I've got two bodies down here.
Now, those two girls, It is horrifying to think what they went through, but they are physically okay. And according to police, they are now in the care of family members. But again, you cannot understate the trauma and the horror that they must have witnessed out on the hike with their parents. The Brink family released a statement that said in part, Clinton and Kristen died heroes, protecting their little girls, and they deserve justice. They will forever live in all of our hearts. Now, the last time police say the suspect was seen, they were driving out of Devil's Den State Park, and they were in a black four-door sedan, and they believe it may be a Mazda. Important part here is that the license plate was blocked from view. It was covered by either electrical or duct tape. We also just learned this new big clue that I was talking about from state police when they released this sketch could be very, very key in the manhunt for this killer. They believe the suspect was injured during the attack. It is unclear why police believe this or just how serious the injury may be, the type of injury it may be. That is unclear, but we do know that law enforcement believe that this suspect was hurt during the attack. And police are also hoping that anyone who lives near the park or may have been in the park has pictures on their cell phones or maybe some GoPro footage that might have captured something suspicious or even captured an image of this killer. Now, it's unclear if anyone has come forward. Police have been very clear. They don't want people sharing information or images on social media as they are trying to put this investigation together. We have learned today that the FBI is now involved in this investigation. KNWA-TV is reporting that the Arkansas State Police still the lead in the investigation, but now the FBI, their office out of the capital of Little Rock, is providing resources in hoping that they can bring this killer to justice. All trails in Devil's Den State Park, they are closed until further notice. Police have also said that tough terrain I was talking about, that lack of cell service, that is also making this investigation challenging for law enforcement. Police have said they've received multiple calls and tips, but still they really haven't said much about whether they're close to arresting a suspect, if they know who this suspect may be. And they also haven't officially revealed a cause of death or a potential motive for this attack. Police say anyone with information should call the number you see on your screen. That is for the Arkansas State Police, 479-751-6663. Not only have police put out that phone number as a tip line for a place for people to go with information, they have also set up a website where people can go and fill out information if they know anything about this person of interest, as we put that person's picture up on the screen once again. The state police say there are 3 things that they're asking the public to do to help them in this investigation that's now been going on for more than 72 hours. They say anyone who is at Devil's Den State Park on Saturday, July 26th, to review any photos, videos, or GoPro camera footage for images of that person of interest or that described vehicle, the 4-door Mazda, dark in color, that had its license plates covered with electrical or duct tape. It was last seen exiting the park. They also want people who live in the area to check their game camera footage, which is like a camera that can fit on a tree similar to a GoPro, or if they have home surveillance footage, to look through that as well for anything related to this investigation. And they're also asking people not to post those images on social media. Police are trying to control the narrative here. We know how things get with misinformation, and police want to make sure that they are controlling what the public knows about this search. Joining me now is retired NYPD Detective Tom Verney. Thank you for taking the time to be with us on Law and Crime. This is just a terrifying story because this was a family out for a hike on a weekend. They had just moved to Northwest Arkansas, probably exploring the outdoors with their young daughters, and someone attacks them and kills them. And it's been 72 hours since this happened, and we still, at this point, at least at the time of this recording, we don't have an arrest. Putting out a sketch, what do you make of that decision by law enforcement?
Well, thanks for having me. Again, my condolences to the family of this horrific crime. And I feel awful for these young children that are left behind, having to deal with this crazy tragedy. And so the fact that a sketch has been put out is encouraging. I don't say that it may not be the end-all be-all for this specific case. But many times when a sketch is created, that has told investigators that there's enough evidence to sort of narrow down the person that we may be looking for. Enough people or enough video evidence has been collected to suggest a general sort of mock-up of the perpetrator. So at least it leads us in a direction where we can narrow down, out of a crowd of people, that this person is a male. We know him to be a male, either white or light-skinned Hispanic, and with certain facial features that people might recognize. So if the sketch gets out there, and now someone from the local community or someone in the adjoining towns or even within the state itself happens to recognize, hey, I know that guy. That's the guy that works down at the local market, or, he's the guy who delivers my mail, or whatever it may be. This, then this would elicit now help from the community to try to say, okay, well, I think I know who this guy is, and then, get the authorities, in a certain direction where they can maybe, interview somebody who may fit that description.
The other key piece of information they released today was they believe that this suspect was injured in the attack. They haven't released the cause of death and how the attack actually happened, but they believe that he is injured. It's interesting, though, they don't say how, like the type of injury. Because I think if I was at a restaurant, I see, they tell me, oh, he definitely hurt his hand, and you see someone in a bandage, you would, the red flags might go off there. Or if he had a broken leg and the guy's limping a bit. What do you make of still the vagueness of this attack and what we know thus far?
Well, it sounds as if the investigators don't have enough evidence really to be able to release to the public, and or media outlets to kind of put it out there to go on, right? So that it sounds like they're piecing together little bits of information, and or based on the condition of the victims. If it seems as if the victims were fighting off the attacker, which one would imagine that might happen, right? That based on the injuries to the victims, based on any weapons that may have been found at the scene, if any, that might indicate exactly what type of injuries or how the perpetrator might be injured. So again, if you're seeing this sketch of a person who looks a certain way, and on top of that, they have scratches on their face, or they have cuts on their hands and so forth. When you start to connect these dots, it might lead you to believe, like, well, that guy might be the guy. So maybe I should tell the authorities about this so they can go talk to this guy and rule out whether he is or is not the person that we're looking for.
To our understanding, these two young girls who lost their parents are the only witnesses to this. And they reportedly ran to a visitor station so they could call 911. I can't imagine I just think of their age too and what they saw. I mean, it's so horrific to think about. But from a law enforcement standpoint, they are the people who saw this guy and are able to put together a picture of what happened. How do you even go about interviewing these young girls, knowing the trauma that they were just through, but needing to get that information to try and bring this person to justice?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I've had the unfortunate task of having to do that. And when you're interviewing children, some children are remarkable in the accuracy of what they see, and how they can sort of verbalize that and articulate that. And some, like a lot of other adult crime victims, are so traumatized by what's happened to them that they give out information that they believe is accurate, and then it turns out not to be accurate. So it's hard to say, with these young girls, whether or not the information that they've given, how accurate it is. We would hope that it is accurate enough to lead us in a direction, or lead investigators in a direction to find, this awful perpetrator that's out there. But you have to also remember the psychological trauma that these children have endured at such a young age, especially. It'd be traumatizing for anybody, but especially for a young child. It could potentially be a barrier to the investigation if the information that they've given is not accurate.
The description that we have of this suspect, not only do we have the sketch and he's wearing a hat, they were saying he's wearing sunglasses, long sleeve shirt with the sleeves rolled up. One part that stood out to me, and I don't know if it stood out to you, but it was he was wearing fingerless gloves, so like workout
Yeah.
gloves, something like that, and also had a backpack. What do you make of what he was wearing? If you were investigating this and that's the description you're going with, what stands out to you?
Yeah. It's just the fact that using fingerless gloves is just always odd to me in any type of crime, because if you're going to wear, if the idea is that you're wearing gloves uh, to either handle a weapon or to use it to punch somebody or whatever it may be, that you'd want full coverings on your hands, right? If for nothing else, not to not leave fingerprints or any evidence behind. So that is a little bit odd that the gloves would be fingerless, given his, based on what the sketch looks like, and one might suggest that I don't want to use the term vagrant, but if the person might be potentially undomiciled, or because of some, we've had, I'm thinking of a case that happened years ago where the guy lived in his car, right? So he was undomiciled, lived in the car that he had, and was sort of, creeping in parks. And that's what made me sort of think about this case, and got my attention about this case, was I was thinking, well, because that could happen anywhere, right? Uh, and you have to go into the sort of the, like, why would someone do this? Like, what was the point? Was he looking to rob them of cash or credit cards or whatever it may be, and then they put up a fight, and then he got angry and then decided that he had to kill them both, which seems a little extreme for a robbery. But so it's hard to say based on, without getting a further description of what he was fully wearing. I mean, is that the type of outerwear that someone would be wearing if they were hiking? Or is it the type of outerwear of someone who just happened to make their way into the park, looking for an opportunity to create, to commit a crime?
And then his getaway vehicle, I guess I'll call it that. He was last seen in a Mazda, the sedan, 4 doors. They believe it's a Mazda, dark colored, but he covered the license plate with either duct tape or electrical tape.
Yeah.
I always think of license plate scanners and how those can be really helpful in these
Mm-hmm.
investigations. What type
Yep.
of challenge? You're an investigator who's done this. I mean, what type of challenge does that present when it comes to trying to find his car? And if he started driving 72 hours ago, there's a lot of places he could have gone.
Well, so the challenge is that if you were going to use license plate readers, right, that creates a barrier, because now the license plate reader is not going to be able to read the license plate that's been covered. In a lot of crimes, however, with cars, even with legitimate license plates on them, sometimes the license plates don't belong on the car that they're on, right? So, and a lot of times you have these temporary tags that dealers might, give to someone just purchasing a car for 30 days or 60 days, whatever it may be. So license plates don't always tell the full story. But again, it does give investigators sort of one less tool to be able to use. However, having said that, if someone is passing a car that fits the description of this particular vehicle with license plates that are obscured, especially obscured with some sort of tape, that would raise, I think, the eyebrow of a lot of different people, saying, well, why would this guy have tape over his license plate? And if they've heard about this case, then again, that in upon itself might say, oh, wait a minute, I heard about a vehicle with taped license plates. And that in upon itself would be enough for someone to call 911 and say, hey, I'm following a vehicle that fits a description of a vehicle that's wanted in connection with a crime that just happened recently. Could you come check it out? And again, I'm sure the authorities would love to do that.
And then just lastly, Tom, I mean, you look at, the 72-hour period that we're crossing now. This is in a state park where not a lot of cell service, and I'm sure that's making it difficult for law enforcement. The suspect drove and could still be driving, but we have a description that seems pretty solid. The sketch is now out there, potentially injured. Sadly, these two witnesses, these young girls, how difficult would you say the task is that police are facing right now when you think of searches that have been similar to this that you've seen in your career?
Yeah. Well, again, this is I'm not familiar with this specific area, but based on what I've looked at, it looks fairly remote. And to do when you consider the terrain of this area as well, it creates certain barriers to doing a search. And the fact that there were only two roads that seem to be out of this specific area that either go north or south, they have a 50-50 shot, going in the right direction, right? So you have to figure, like, if this guy, how much gas did he have in his car? Would he have to go to a local, a more populated area? Would he try to ditch the car and maybe try to disappear into a more populated area, or take a different mode of transportation out of that county, out of the state, whether it be by bus or by plane or train? So, in 72 hours, this guy could pretty much be anywhere. So you would have to imagine that while we're looking for this specific vehicle, if they might find the vehicle and not find the guy. So the focus probably is going to be a little bit more on the guy, because he may, if he's has his wits about him to some degree, he's going to probably want to ditch that vehicle at some point if he's looking to skedaddle out of the area.
Yeah, I mean, so many questions, but at the end of the day, I mean, just such a sad story. I think of those two little girls, just so awful. Tom Burney, retired NYPD detective. Thank you as always for joining us on Law and Crime. We appreciate it.
Sure, anytime.
Before we go, I once again want to put this new sketch up on the screen. This sketch of the suspect. Get a good look. If there's anything, if you live in the Arkansas area, or if this rings a bell for someone you know, call the Arkansas State Police, 479-751-6663. The family of the Brinks has also established this GoFundMe to help pay for funeral expenses, and at the time of this recording, it has raised more than $15,000. It also says not only is this money going to be used to lay the Brinks to rest, but also it will be used to help the two little girls, again, just 7 and 9 years old. You think of the horrifying trauma that they went through over the weekend. They say that this money will be used to help them with whatever they need in what will be a very long road ahead. That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.